The Christmas week has been absolutely insane in AI. While you and the big boys have been putting on kilos and fighting their relatives over politics, China said, here are the real presents and dropped 3 banger open source models. GLM 4.7, MiniMax M2.1 and Xiaomi MiMo V2 Flash. These models are insane and they're not just catching up, they are genuinely rivaling Claude and GPT at a fraction of the cost. Xiaomi's model is actually so cheap, you're not going to believe it at first, at least that was my expression. I can already tell there's even more. We have Qwen that released 2 editing models. Turbo Diffusion claims to speed up video generation by 1 to 200 times. And we got a tiny new TTS model that actually generates good sounding voice. So Merry Christmas indeed. The first model we are looking at is GLM 4.7. If you're familiar with the channel, you already know we've been testing this model a few times. It's really amazing. They improved encoding, they improved in design. So it was a very good step forward, especially when you consider the price. On their benchmarks, they're comparing it with DeepSeek 3.2, Sonnet 4.5, GPT 5.1, and down in the table, we also have, for example, Gemini 3 Pro. Of course, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of the benchmarks since most of the companies are training on those benchmarks, so the tests are way better. We tested coding a lot for GLM. I can tell you, for me, it replaced Opus 4.5 as the main coder. Of course, it's not quite on the level as Opus 4.5 yet, but we will do a very specific test for this as well. Nonetheless, like the speed and how it's working is absolutely amazing, and especially for the price, if you know the coding plans for GLM, they are just so cheap for what you get. It's insane. And we will look at some of the showcases. Here, for example, you can see some of the design that they changed or designing capability. Of course, this looks now not really like a pure AI website, but you can see also in the video that where we already tried the front-end battle with Opus 4.5, with Gemini 3, and also with MiniMax, how it performed there. We have some other, they showed this garden before, even with the 4.6 version. It looks pretty cool, definitely. Is it a good use case? I don't know, but it shows the capabilities, especially when we look here into the designs. And this is stuff that you can actually use for work, for example. So that's actually something useful, especially here when we look at this Zootopia slides. That's pretty cool and definitely something we need to test. And of course, we tested a lot of coding so far with GLM 4.7, but we will also test the pure LLM capabilities. So where we put it head to head, for example, with ChatGPT, and then see how it performs, because I think that's very important to know and see. Maybe it's rivaling my current favorite, which is Kimi K2, but we will need to test it for this. Some interesting technical stuff. They're talking about interleaved thinking and preserved thinking. If you have heard of it, interleaved thinking is per step thinking, and preserved is that it recalls it over the different steps. So this is very helpful and changes the pure one-time thinking that we had before into a more useful solution when you're actually doing tasks. I mean, you know, as a human, you're not just thinking from the start and then doing everything, you're thinking with every step. So this makes a lot of situations better. Like, it's handling those very good, and especially in tool calling, that the model, every time it's calling a tool and getting some information back, then it's thinking again, and this improves the results by a lot. You can try out GLM 4.7 for free over their website. And of course, like I said, their coding plans are actually amazing, and I'm sure you will see more videos on the channel about this model. Then a competitor for GLM, MiniMax M2.1. They are claiming also very big improvements. I have to say they are a bit aggressive, so I'm not quite sure how to think about it. I have to say MiniMax M2, I really like the model. It was very helpful also for LLM tasks. They are trying to push the programming, the coding a lot. And they're even putting advertisement on all the videos that have MiniMax in them at the moment. So that's a bit weird. It's happened to me, happened to other channels. So I'm not sure what I should think about this. In our tests so far, I have not been mind blown by MiniMax, I have to say, in the pure coding tests. So I know it's a very good model for LLM tasks. Again, we need to check this before we can talk about how good it is now. But in coding, it was decent. It's not bad at all. Definitely, you can use it if you're using it totally fine. GLM has been better for the things that I tested, but this marketing things, then you're already questioning like what is happening. Of course, there you can integrate them with all of the big coders. I usually use them in Claude Code, but you can also use them through if you're using Kilo Code or Ru Code, for example. So this is not a problem. Let's look at the examples that they're showing. We have this animation here that's actually pretty cool because it's gesture controlled. So that's pretty amazing. I think I have to try something like this as well, just to see if the models can do this like gesture controlled. Though I don't have a camera, so this might be a problem in this situation, but maybe we can find a different solution for this. They're also putting a lot of emphasis on the agentic tool use. This is very interesting for me, and I think we need to do a test since I'm using GLM and also MiniMax within Claude Code. I think we can definitely put together an agentic test and let it do something interesting. If you have ideas for an agentic test, what I can test the models on, please let me know. I really need some ideas for this, but I think this could be a very, very interesting comparison because they're like claiming here that it can be a full employee even doing stuff, requesting from other people information and then looking stuff up and connecting everything together. It sounds like a very, very interesting use case, and I would love to test it. So if you have any ideas, let me know. So far, again, MiniMax M2 has been amazing. Not gonna lie, M2.1, we will see. We have to test it with the LLMs. The coding has been decent, not mind-blowing, especially the design part, but the backend part was quite good. So let's see in further tests how it's doing. Next model that I am actually insanely excited about, and I will test so much about this because this is Xiaomi entering the space. I mean, that's not true. They already released a few models, but there have been smaller and not competing directly with the big ones. Now we have MiMo V2 Flash. And in their benchmarks, they're claiming that it's competing again with DeepSeek 3.2, with K2 thinking, and also with Sonnet 4.5. First of all, sounds very interesting because this is a model that only has 309 billion parameters and 15 billion active. So it's a very efficient model. And the big thing about this model, not gonna lie, is the price. When I heard the price, I was completely shocked. I didn't believe it. So they take 10 cents per million input and 30 per million output. And if this is true, this is an absolute game changer. Because if you're programming real apps, like those prices, they matter, especially the input price. And an input price of 10 cents is absolutely insane and amazing and would change actually a lot. And if this, I mean, currently they have it for free. So it's also interesting. And then let's see what they do once it's released fully or they charge for it, let's say, and see how it does. Here, for example, they have some showcases again, and they're showing off a website. And I can already tell you, I tested this as well so far already. This is a good representation for the model, 100%. I can show you here. This is the example that I did with one prompt. So pretty good looking. Of course, with the emojis, it still has some of the AI look, but nonetheless, this is a good looking website that you can definitely use. It's also not been lazy and putting in a lot of content. So I really like this, to be honest. And if we look at the other examples, for example, we have the solar system here, which is pretty cool. Also moving around with the mouse. I didn't notice this before. but a very cool generation. We have the macOS clone, which also looks cool. But again, the design with the emojis, if they take this out, then it could look really, really good. But we're going to test this. I'm currently working on a coding test with the free API that they're having at the moment. And then we will also test it in LLM tasks, of course, because I really want to know how this performs. Such a model at such a price, and if it can do a lot of specific tasks that need some intelligence, with the speed that it has and the low price, then it can be actually amazing and a use case for many, many applications. So we will definitely try this out. They claim it's also good in creative writing. I'm a bit more skeptical there, but we will see. We will test this as well. Yeah, I mean, you can see here the efficiency that they're showing is just off the charts. Not really, it's still in, but absolutely amazing. Better than Grok 4 fast. And you know how cheap this one was. Especially the price comparison to DeepSeek, I find very interesting because I wouldn't say, I mean, saying it's an issue is too much, but DeepSeek, the input price, 27 cents, is too high. If this had an input price that was below 20 cents, like let's say 15, for example, insane. Absolutely insane for all of the use cases. And of course, DeepSeek is much slower. You can see it in the table. We're around 30 tokens per second. And we're talking with V2 Flash here, 150 tokens. So this actually changes a lot. Of course, DeepSeek, I think, is a lot smarter or has more knowledge. Let's put it this way. We will test it head to head because this is a very, very promising model and will change a lot if they can compete with the others. Now, from the LLMs, some news from Qwen. They are releasing 2 editing models. The one is very interesting. It's a layered model. So, I mean, if you ever worked with Photoshop or something like this, the different layers in an image are very interesting because you can edit each layer of the images. So you're taking of a done image as an input, and then you put it in and you get the different layers, and then you can edit just one of those layers. For example, you can see here the background. I mean, this is a bit mind-blowing because this, again, changes how we edit images and makes it much more accurate, which is pretty cool and a very useful tool. And I think like this could be the new standard going forward. Of course, we have to test how good it is, how the quality compares. But this use case looks so cool and interesting and actually helpful that I'm really excited to test it. Because they also released Qwen Image Edit. And even though it looks quite nice, also with the examples they are giving here, some cool use cases that they're showing. And of course, they did a bit of cherry picking, I have to say, because we already tested Qwen Image Edit and compared it to Nano Banana, but even without the comparison, just some of the tests, it just failed, we have to say. And I was more excited when I saw the release now, because I mean, it's out for a bit, but now they released the weights and so on and made it open source. I was hoping for more, to be honest. So still, it's one of the best open source editors right now. And of course, when we then add LoRa's and everything, we can push it more, and we will look into how it develops over the next few months. I think they can push it a lot and make it much better. But my initial impression, you can watch the tests on my channel. I was not so impressed, unfortunately. Next model that we have is very interesting. It's an acceleration for video generation. And this is, I mean, if you ever work with video generation, this gets very interesting. One of the main parts is that in AI, how we pay for stuff, for the models and so on, usually has to do with how much time it takes to compute it, because we are paying by the second for GPU power, for example. And if we can speed it up by 100, that's absolutely insane. You know, when you think about video generation on Kling, for example, and you're paying for one generation of I think it's 5 seconds, I'm not sure. You're paying around like 35 cents and the outcome is amazing. But now imagine you can speed it up by 100 and then you're paying less than a cent. That would be insane. That would make things so much better. And of course, even better here for local usage, because they're showing it with, I think it's a 3090. It's a 5090 actually, how they are speeding up the process. Because if you're using your own hardware, of course, you don't have a data center level GPU at home. So you have to work with what you have. And I mean, if you have a 5090, you're already really lucky. If you can speed this up by 100 times or even 200 times, then it makes it viable to generate those videos on your own PC, for example. And this makes it a lot cheaper, of course, because then you can use your own resources. And I'm very interested how this will play out. I mean, it just came out. You can try and use it. And please let me know in the comments how it's doing, because I mean, I don't have a 5090 to try this out. Would love to test it, but I mean, they're claiming from 184 seconds, so 3 minutes, which is, I would say from my testing with videos, reasonable to say that this is a normal generation. And this down to 2 seconds, that's absolutely insane. Because then you can iterate a lot more, you can do a lot more tries, the quality will get better, and you save a lot of time when generating this stuff, and it will change a lot actually. So very, very cool. I hope we will see more of this in the near future. And then we have a tiny little TTS model, so text to speech. And this is very interesting for me, of course, with my app. I'm using a lot of TTS, so I'm looking into this. It's only 80 million parameters, and but its quality is actually quite good. Let's just listen into it.
Hello and welcome to Florence. I am thrilled to be your guide as we step into the cradle of the Renaissance. Right now, we are standing in the spiritual heart of the city, the Piazza del Duomo. Take a moment to look up at the breathtaking facade of the Cattedrale di Santa Maria del Fiore.
First of all, it's super fast. The generation is quite good. Especially if we compare it to way bigger models. From my testing, I have to say, you cannot use it for real life instant TTS because there are still some smaller issues, some random pauses, for example. But if you're using this on your own, if you're preparing, some voice for something, this could be an actual viable option. I will put the link in the description. You can check it out. I found it on Reddit, actually. The creator posted it there. Absolutely amazing work from him. Good job. And I'm looking forward to what he's creating in the future. This is only English, of course, for the moment. For 80 million parameters, of course, there's not much room. As maybe, the Kokoro, I'm also a very big fan of, and it's a similar size. So those smaller models can actually do quite a lot already, and they don't sound so robotic, and they just generate very good voice that you can use. This is it with the news for today, or for this week better. Still, even if it was Christmas, there are a lot of things happened, and I'm looking forward to when the others come out of holidays, because at least from rumors, we hear that Sonnet 4.7 was pushed a lot, and let's see if it comes out soon. I think that would be another big news. So thanks so much for watching, and we see each other in the next video.